President Muhammadu Buhari's seventh address to the UN General Assembly comes at a time when the world is gradually coming out of a pandemic. The UN has not encouraged large delegations this year, and many leaders are giving their addresses virtually. In a speech just short of 18 minutes long, the President wasted no time delving into issues on the continent and globally, beginning with initiatives aimed at curbing the coronavirus. Declaring Nigeria's support for the COVAX initiative and thanking the US, China, even India for developing and distributing vaccines, he decried inequitable distribution, which puts many developing nations at a disadvantage.
Vaccination is the key to our safe emergence from the pandemic. We fully support the COVAX initiative, from which we have benefited. We also thank the United States of America, Turkey, India, China, European Union, and others for the vaccines provided. Despite the acknowledgement, however, I would like to reiterate my call for a fairer and more equitable distribution of vaccines in all countries so that together we can fight and contain the pandemic.
Addressing the issue of good governance on the continent, the President called for African leaders to adhere to constitutional provision of term limits, the absence of which results in forceful overthrow of democratic governments.
In West Africa especially, our democratic gains of the past decades are now being eroded. The recent trend of unconstitutional takeover of power, sometimes in reaction to unilateral changes of constitution by some leaders, must not be tolerated by the international community. In this regard, I would like to reiterate that as leaders of our individual member states, we need to adhere to constitutional provisions of our countries, particularly on term limits. This is one area that generates crisis and political tension in our sub-region.
He condemned the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which he says is having social and economic consequences around the world, and called for greater cooperation for the international community to find solutions. On the issue of terrorism, he described non-state actors like the Boko Haram militant group as preying on soft targets. He promised Nigeria will not spare the group.
Terrorism continues to dominate security discourse worldwide. In Nigeria, Boko Haram, terrorist group, though fragmented by internal strife and weakened by our defense forces, is still active and preying on soft targets. Nigeria will continue to work closely with United Nations counter-terrorism bodies and entities with a view to bringing this scourge to an end. Nigeria has spared no effort in addressing the challenges of terrorism posed by the activities of Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria, the Lake Chad region, as well as banditry in the northwest and north central. Nigeria remains deeply concerned over the illicit trade, transfer, and circulation of small arms and light weapons. Their excessive accumulation and uncontrolled spread in many regions of the world are having devastating humanitarian and socio-economic consequences, especially on the continent of Africa.
As he wound down on his speech, the President touched on various other issues such as the unsustainable burden of debt borne by African countries, especially during the pandemic, climate change, and respect for fundamental human rights.